So, what if you could train leaders not just to know more, but to actually think better? Today we're going to break down a really fascinating proposal from the Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion. Their whole goal is to do just that, create a new generation of leaders who are truly equipped for this incredibly complex world we're all living in.
And really, at its core, the entire proposal comes down to answering this one single question. You see, the creators, they believe that in our world of just constant information overload, the most vital skill for a leader, well, it isn't just knowing more facts. It's about having a crystal clear system for how to think.
And this quote right here, it gets straight to the heart of the problem they're trying to solve. This is their diagnosis of the modern student's dilemma. You know the feeling, right? It's like you're drowning in information, just swimming in it, but you don't have that mental framework to actually make sense of any of it.
So let's talk about this crisis of clarity. The proposal paints a really vivid picture of the modern university campus, right? They describe it as this environment that's just filled with misinformation and so much polarization. And their argument is pretty simple. Students today, they need a completely new kind of toolkit just to get through it.
So what exactly are those needs? Well, if you look at their accreditation documents, these are the specific things the program is built to tackle. And this isn't just some academic exercise, you know? It's presented as a direct response to what they see as really urgent challenges facing students, especially Jewish students, on campus right now.
Okay, so that's the problem. How do they propose to fix it? Well, this brings us to the very heart of their whole philosophy, a method they call conscious learning. The big idea here is that you build a leader from the inside out. You strengthen their internal framework for thinking first, and then their external skills will follow.
And here it is. This is the absolute key to their whole approach. Conscious learning isn't about teaching students what to think, it's about teaching them how to think. The whole goal is to train them to see the underlying structure, the bones, really, of any idea or argument so they can break it down with real discipline and, you guessed it, clarity.
Now, this method isn't something they just invented out of thin air. It's grounded in some really serious intellectual history. The whole curriculum is built on these foundational texts of Jewish philosophy. We're talking about stuff like the Ramchal's The Way of Reason and Rabbi Zimmerman's works. And look, these aren't just reading assignments. These books are the actual source code for the logical and analytical tools that the entire conscious learning system is built on. Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this, kind of abstract method get applied in the real world? Well, the proposal puts it to the ultimate test with a super rigorous curriculum focused on the Middle East. They're basically taking that internal thinking framework and aiming it squarely at one of the most complex challenges on the planet. And this line from their recruitment materials just says it all. Stop reacting, start leading the narrative. It perfectly frames the goal of the whole curriculum, right? The aim is to shift students from being on their back foot, always in a defensive, reactive mode, to a place where they can proactively and thoughtfully lead the conversation because they have that deep knowledge.
So here's how the program is structured. It's an 8-week intensive, and you can really think of it as 2 connected parts. The first part, the first 4 weeks, that's all about building your internal toolkit, the ethical and logical framework. Then, the second 4 weeks, that's when you take that toolkit and apply to a really rigorous, university-level study of geopolitics and history.
And you can really see the academic depth they're going for right here in the syllabus. I mean, this is not a quick surface-level overview. It's a proposed deep dive into the absolute key moments and documents that have shaped the modern Middle East, all the way from the Ottoman Empire right up to the Abraham Accords. But the proposal is really clear about this. Just knowing a lot of stuff isn't enough. A huge part of the program is all about translating that theory and that history into tangible, practical skills. Skills you can actually use in public discourse and in leadership roles. So, how do they build those skills? Well, the syllabus is just packed with hands-on workshops. We're not talking about passive lectures where you just sit and listen. Nope. These are active training sessions in things like media forensics and concept mapping, and each one is designed to build a specific, real-world leadership skill.
And here's a perfect example of how this works in practice. They have this thing called the Political Simulation Lab. In there, students aren't just learning about diplomacy, they're actually doing it. They have to step into the shoes of diplomats from different sides and try to negotiate a ceasefire or a peace plan, navigating all that intense pressure and applying everything they've learned.
All right, so after all of this training, the philosophy, the history, the hands-on workshops, what's the end game? What are the promised results? What does the program actually claim its graduates will be able to do when they walk out the door? Well, according to the proposal, a student walks away with a really powerful combination of skills. We're talking enhanced critical thinking and logic, deep historical literacy and narrative strategy, and the tools for genuinely constructive dialogue. And all of that is built on the most important thing, the capacity to lead from a place of a strong, grounded identity.
And this all ties back to the program's bigger mission, which is really summed up perfectly in this phrase from their pitch. It's a stated commitment to countering hate through education, not polarization. So the goal isn't to win arguments by just shouting louder. It's to elevate the entire conversation through education and, of course, clarity.
Which, of course, brings us to a final, pretty big question. This proposal, it has an incredibly ambitious vision, right? To basically change the world by changing how its future leaders think. But can an educational method, no matter how well designed it is, truly reshape public discourse on that scale? It's a really powerful idea, and definitely something to think about.